If you feel like reading piano notes is slow, frustrating, or it just has not clicked for you yet, you are not alone. The good news is that reading music is not about talent. It's really about training your brain in the right way. So today in this video, I'm going to be breaking down some tips and tools for how to read piano notes very, very quickly and easily. If you haven't watched it already, I'm going to link here for you my How to Read Music crash course, because this covers a lot of the basics of reading music that are very essential to understand when you're reading music. And this video is built on all the basics of that lesson. So first of all, it's actually important to shift your mindset when you come to reading music. One of the most important mindsets to have as you come to reading music is to look for patterns. Fast readers are not just individually identifying one note at a time. They're actually looking for patterns in music, and that allows them to read very quickly and smoothly and easily. It's similar to how you would read a book. You aren't thinking about spelling out every single letter one by one and then slowly piecing it together. That might be for a very beginner, but as you gain fluency in reading language, you begin to notice patterns in words and you can quickly read because you now know the patterns. So our goal is to train your eyes to see relationships and patterns in music, not just individual notes. First of all, one of the biggest keys to reading faster is to understand the difference between steps and skips. So instead of just immediately thinking, what letter name is that note? Is it an E? Is it a G? You want to think, is the next note moving up or is the next note moving down? How far apart are these two notes from each other? When those become your first two questions, you'll begin to find that your ease of reading music speeds up dramatically. So steps and skips in music are one of the closest distances that notes can be apart from each other. A step is when you're moving from a line to a space that is adjacent to it, either up or down, or moving from a space to a line that is directly adjacent to it, either up or down. A step in music is also known as a second because they are two notes apart from each other. And on the piano, if you're playing a step, you simply move from one letter name to the next letter name. So for example, you could move from G to A, or you could move from C to B. Those are steps. And if you can quickly identify as you're looking through music and you think, am I moving from a line to a space or a space to a line adjacent? And the answer is yes. Boom, you have your answer. And your second question, is it moving up or down, will tell you what direction to move in. On the piano, typically, what you will do when you're stepping is you'll simply move from one finger to the next finger. If it's moving up, you would go to a higher finger. For example, you'd move maybe from finger 1 to 2. And if you're moving lower, you would move to the lower number finger, typically, like from 3 to 2. Now, skips are when you're moving from a space to a space that's adjacent, or from a line to a line that's adjacent. And this could be moving in an upper direction or a lower direction. With skips on piano, you're going to be skipping over a letter name. So for example, you could be moving from C to E, where you're skipping over D. Or you could move from B to G, where you're skipping over the letter A. And typically when you're playing a skip on piano, you also will skip over one finger. So for example, you might move from 1 to 3, skipping over finger number 2. Or you could maybe move from 5 to 3, where you're skipping over finger number 4. Skips can also be called thirds because the two notes are 3 notes apart from each other, or 3 letter names apart from each other. And it tends to be easier to call them steps and skips simply because it's easier to remember that you step a finger, it's right next door, or you skip a finger, you're skipping over one. Now in music, you also want to recognize if it's a larger interval than a step or a skip. If you're dealing with two notes that are farther apart from each other than just a step or a skip, you can start working on identifying how large is the interval between the two notes, and that will tell you what note to go to. So for example, if you're moving from G to D in the treble clef, you can count how many steps you're moving up there. So you're going from the G line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that in intervals is known as a fifth. And so you would know that you're going to move up 5 notes, counting from the G note, and that would be the note that you're going to play. Now at first, this is going to take a little bit of time and work, of course, to identify the intervals, but before long, your eyes are going to become trained to know what a third looks like, what a fourth looks like, what a fifth looks like. It's going to help you become very fast at identifying intervals and knowing how far to move. So instead of decoding every single pitch thinking, okay, that's C, oh, that's B, oh, that's G, which can be helpful, don't get me wrong, but you want it to be combined with an understanding of intervals so that you can be thinking, Okay, we're moving up here a fourth. Okay, we're moving down here an octave, which is an eighth. Now we're moving up a skip. So that knowledge combined with an understanding of the note names is going to really speed up your fluency of reading music. Now let's talk about learning landmark notes. So landmark notes are important notes that you can memorize on the staff that are commonly used on the piano. As an example, middle C is a very common one, especially for beginner music. So middle C is a very important note that you should have memorized so that immediately when you see it, you know that is middle C. And along with memorizing each of these landmark notes, you also want to memorize exactly where to find it on the piano keyboard. The landmark notes that you should memorize on the piano keyboard are middle C, treble G, bass F in the bass clef, and additional landmark notes that can be very helpful to know are treble C in the treble clef and bass C in the bass clef. Now, 3 ways to really memorize and internalize the landmark notes are: first, you want to be able to identify them on the staff. So you can print out blank staff paper and just practice drawing each of these landmark notes. Then secondly, you want to find them and play them on your piano keyboard. And then thirdly, a very helpful way to really learn these notes is to go through any music that you're learning and choose a specific color for each note and circle it. So for example, you could choose red for middle C and go through your music and circle in red any middle C that you see in the treble clef or in the bass clef. Then you could maybe take green for treble G and go through your music again and circle any treble G that you see, and so on. So all of these little tricks can really help you to memorize landmark notes. And then from those landmark notes, you can use with steps and skips or intervals any other notes that are nearby. So finally, we're going to talk about 3 tricks that can really help you to read faster in music. So first of all, it's really important to be sight reading new music all the time. What you can do is you can either have a book that you're already learning music from, and every day just flip to a new page and play through something new that you've never learned before, or you can just have a separate book that is at a similar level to where you're at, and every day open that up and play something new. And just choose a chunk that might take you maybe 10 minutes max to get through. Don't do anything too long. I would say shoot for 5 to 10 minutes of sight reading every single day. The reason why you want to do this is that your reading fluency is going to improve really from exposure to music, not just from repeating the same things over and over. When you're doing sight reading, make sure you choose easy music, not something that's very challenging. You want it to be something that you can very, very quickly identify the notes and play through without too much of a struggle. So typically I'd recommend choosing something that's just a little bit easier than what you're practicing as your core practice music. And the goal here is not for perfection, it's really just for fluency, being able to build up your exposure to reading music. The second thing that you can do is actually copy music by hand. Print out some blank sheet music. I'll link some down below that you can just print out, grand staff for the piano, and just copy music by hand. Spend a few minutes every single day taking maybe a song that you're learning or something from a book that you are learning from, and just simply copy down the notes, and then above it, label what the names of the notes are. This will begin to reinforce what you're learning. You'll see how the notes are related to each other. You'll be able to identify the note names. And if you want an extra challenge, you can also then go to the piano and play those notes out to be able to find them on the keyboard as well. Now, the third thing that you can do that makes a huge difference, and this can be if you're sight reading or if you're practicing just your regular music, what you want to develop is the habit of moving your eyes a little bit ahead in the music from where you're playing. If you're constantly keeping your eyes a little bit ahead, this will begin to build your flow in your playing. You'll be able to progress more quickly, and also you'll be more confident of what is coming ahead. And you'll find yourself not making quite as many pauses where you're trying to think about what's coming or what the next note is. This one trick is going to really help you gain fluency and confidence in reading music. My final quick tip is if you're kind of reaching an intermediate level of reading music, at this point, now you want to be looking for other patterns. You want to be noticing patterns in the music, like if there are scales where each note is moving incrementally in steps up or down. You want to notice if there are arpeggios where chords are broken. You want to notice if there are repeated patterns that are happening over and over again. All of these observational skills are going to really help you to speed up your reading in piano and be able to play more fluently and easily with sheet music. As a quick recap of what we have talked about today, as you're reading music, you want to think in patterns, not just in individual notes. You want to focus on steps, skips, and intervals in music, asking yourself these two questions: am I moving up? Am I moving down? And how far is the distance between these two notes? You want to be mastering your landmark notes. Be sight reading something new every single day. Practice copying out music by hand. And as you're reading music, keep your eyes moving just a little bit ahead of where you are playing the music. If you consistently apply all these different strategies we talked about in the video today, you will find your reading improving immensely and very quickly. If you enjoyed this video today, please don't forget to like this video down below and subscribe to my channel. I have much more content on how to excel at the piano as an adult beginner, as well as how to move from a beginner to an advanced level on the piano. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Happy practicing.